It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into a Tuesday. Gary, what's happening?
Well, I would advise nobody do theater of the mind here for the next minute. Are you ready?
All right.
Okay, nobody do theater of the mind. Listen to the audio cut, but don't think about it. All right?
Okay.
No thinking about this.
All right.
Here we go.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. I have poopy days all the time.
That's it. I'm going to continue not watching The View forever. My boycott of The View continues, and now I have a new reason. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to watch. I'm done. I'm through.
The other thing that got me yesterday...
Is that why she's not doing movies anymore? Is that problematic? Is that a problem on the set? Cut!
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man.
All right, everybody,
I have
take
poopy
5.
days myself. And the other thing was reading the Wall Street Journal yesterday about the 25th Amendment and mirroring what we said yesterday. Look, you need the vice president, you need the cabinet. That's not going to happen. There may be pressure to do that, but it's not going to happen. And the Wall Street Journal was talking about that and said, deeming a president unable to perform his duties requires a declaration to that effect from the vice president and the majority of his cabinet, all of whom have some loyalty to the man in the Oval Office. And this is the key sentence here. Is Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg ready to throw Mr. Biden under the electric bus?
Oh my gosh!
And then I don't even have to read the article. It's just the headline. Victor Davis Hanson yesterday in American Greatness: Biden Gate and the Doom Loop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
My God, what a day!
It's getting progressively worse. Now the story on the mega fundraisers where the phones are just drying up, and that's inevitable. In a campaign where you have now this defiance, everybody now sees it. They saw it before. Now what we have is people telling the truth about what they've been seeing for a long time, something we've been seeing and we're honest about all along. And it's not going to go well. He writes his letter to Congress, hey, I'm staying in. And sorry, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And his defiance now is, again, this is what happens in the leftist circles, is that you go to protect the guy. He doesn't care about you. He didn't care about the liberal media. Remember, the liberal media has been showing up since January 20th of 2021 looking for their talking points. A liberal administration hands them talking points. Here, go publish this, go broadcast this, and we're done for the day. And they wouldn't do that. And the defiance of Joe Biden is going to be through and through to the end. You're not going to change that. His family is standing around him, building this wall around him. It's why Hunter is there. And now you've got maybe a half dozen people aside from the president who are fighting for him, including the president, and they're fighting for him to stay in because of his defiance. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if the ship goes down. He doesn't care. He's not going down with the ship. He's going to be a retired president. The party has to go down with the ship. And that's the reality that the Democrats have, and you can't do anything about it. As we've mentioned, as you just mentioned, there's not going to be any move on the 25th Amendment. It's not going to happen. This isn't the last season of House of Cards.
Well, to show you the problem here, because one of the things you heard yesterday was, well, when they see it's going to affect the down ballot. Well, of course it's going to affect the down ballot.
Yeah.
Just give you an example. Byron York did it in the Washington Examiner yesterday to show you where we have gone. He goes, on June 7th, after the reality of the criminal conviction had a week to sink in with voters, Trump's lead over Biden shrank to 0.3 points in the Real Clear Politics average of national polls. The trial undoubtedly had an effect on Trump's ratings. His lead hit just 0.2 points in April amid the intense pretrial media coverage. The lead then remained very small for the next 7 weeks. A narrowing of the race gave hope to Democrats who had watched Biden trail Trump since last September. After all, what was the Democratic lawfare campaign for, if not to weaken Trump so much that Biden could prevail? Biden further hoped to reset the race at the candidate's first debate on June 27th. We know how that went. After the president's disastrous performance, the race that had been so close began to widen in Trump's favor. Trump's lead grew from 0.3 points to 1 to 2 points to 3 points, and now 3.4 points in the Real Clear Politics average. Now, that's an average, but that goes over, the last month or two.
Yeah.
If you look at it right now, it's actually greater. It is Trump's biggest lead since January and his second biggest lead ever. To give you some perspective, Trump right now in the average of the polls is up 3.4 points. In the 2020 race at this time, Biden led Trump by 8.8 points. And so that's where you have, I don't believe the majority of those people are Democrats. The majority of those people are independents. When you look at it, when you actually break it down, you're talking about a 12 to 13 point swing from the last election.
Yeah.
That's where independents come in.
Right. And I think we were already starting to see that move, that shift before the debate. And the debate was the death knell. You would
be correct on that, because you and I watched the polls closely and even said, well, wait a minute, we haven't seen them. And again, the problem is when you use the average, and the average might be over the past month, the Real Clear Politics average over the past month or 2 months, which doesn't indicate, at least to me, where the election is right now.
Right, yeah.
And you see that, the one poll that came out the other day where they're like, oh, okay, he's closing, Biden's closing, and then you see the new poll came out today, or yesterday, the Emerson battleground states, and he leads in every battleground state, Trump does. So, and the only one that's really would be close would be Michigan, Trump 45, Biden 44, which brings me to the question. Again, it's tough to look at an entire state, but you've seen the lead in Pennsylvania for Trump.
Yeah.
In both of the polls, huge.
Yeah. It's massive.
It's when you look at it, you're like, whoa. And so you just went, okay, so if Pennsylvania is massively going for Trump, Michigan isn't? Again, it's just things that go through your mind, but it's important just so people understand what the difference is between 2020 and now.
Well, and it's like what we talked about in those regions. Certain regions have the same culture, the same concerns. And we talked about the Iowa poll that had Trump leading by 18. We said, okay, the first thing you might say to yourself is this is an outlier, and time may prove that point. But I didn't think so because of the following. The following being here we are right now with all of these broken things. This was pre-debate, that Iowa poll. And you had said it multiple times that the polls, you should be leading, if they were accurate, you should be leading by 15 to 20 points. Trump should be leading easily in states by 15 to 20 points. Not California, not New York, but certainly in many states he should be leading like that. In Iowa, what you're looking at is an independent voter in the way that, they've been known to. Got friends in Iowa. In fact, I'll be at the Walcott Truckers Jamboree this Saturday. And if you're going to be at the Iowa 80 truck stop, come by and say hi. We're going to have their show goes on, by the way, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I go there every year, and I know you've been there covering elections over the years, and you know this. And the voters in Iowa can and often do go back and forth. So if you can convince them, okay, we're going to get your vote. They don't. Many of them are not along the party lines. I see that as one of those states where that independent swing is ever present. And you've really got to get in and work for it, or you've really got to do something to screw it up if they're going to turn away from you. And that's exactly what we see in Iowa. We see that with neighboring states in that region. You see Minnesota, Wisconsin, and now you see Trump's edge in Wisconsin creeping up now. And post-debate, my gosh, there really is, forget all the polls pre-debate. Forget all the polls pre-debate, except for the extent that the basis of the polls then, before the debate, were about the broken economy, the broken border, all the things that the Biden administration has broken. Those things were very much in play and certainly had carried a ton of weight. But now everybody's talking about it. The president has lost the Washington Post and the New York Times and other liberal publications and other prominent liberals now and Democrats on Capitol Hill. So you look at these polls post-debate, and they're going to change dramatically. And that's what we're starting to see. There was no doubt in my mind that that's what would happen. It was going to take a couple of weeks to start seeing these, and we're starting to see it.
Well, I think, we talk about the fact that it's head-to-head now, that Trump is up 3.4%. And at this time, back in 2020, head-to-head, Biden was up by 8. Mm-hmm. Let me just see here. Biden was up by 8.8 points, almost 9 points in 2020.
Yeah.
Clinton was up by 4 points. Clinton was up by 4 points in 2016. But if you take all the candidates in there, Trump is up almost 5. He's up 4.9.
Yeah.
That's huge at that point. And they haven't even started. Trump has been quiet. He was asked the question, I guess, on Hannity. He just said, why would I get involved? Why would I get involved in this? Let them, he's actually doing what he hasn't done in the past, which was just shut up.
Okay, well, I won't go full Whoopi here. Don't rain on your own gift.
When they're going poopy, don't go poopy.
Don't go poopy on the gift that's been handed to you. Does she have to change her name? So,
Poopy Goldberg.
Poopy Goldberg. She brought it up.
Right. Well,
she's the one that brought. We didn't bring it up.
No.
She says it.
I honestly, look, I'm not lying here.
Huh?
I don't want you to know about my poopy, and I don't want to know about your poopy.
I don't care. I just assumed it was happening right there on the set of The View. I didn't ever say it. Well, I guess I did now. But she said it first. It's all out in the open.
We would not be talking poopy about Whoopi if Whoopi hadn't talked about poopy.
Oh, I look forward to the memo on this one. Guys, let me ask you a question.
You're getting very close to the FCC limitations on talking about human excrement.
Yeah. It was in the news. We were doing a Whoopi update.
As long as we're using the proper language to describe it, I believe we are okay.
Yeah.
Plus, is the after midnight rule still in?
I don't know. I don't even know what FCC stands for. So, yeah, I don't know. Fun, cake, and coffee. That's what I thought it was.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So, what a day it was yesterday. I think it was Breitbart I went to. They said, the squad comes to Biden's rescue.
Yeah. Right. I love it. Yeah. It really is at a point now. And I do think that behind the scenes there are Democrats going, all right, we can't change it. So we just ride it out. Trump wins. We come back in 28. We blame everything on Biden, and screwing everything up and not being able to get it done. And if he doesn't win, and that's that. And I think it's why you see people like Newsom going, oh no, he's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. Hochul, all of them. I mean, look, you have to have your loyalists because number one, you have to include the outside possibility that he would win. And right now, it's a very outside possibility that he would win, but it is a possibility. And if that's the case and you're a sitting Democrat governor, then, of course, you need to make sure that you can work with this administration.
Well, remember, though, the Democrats want to nominate him before the convention.
Yeah,
I mean, that could happen in the
Right.
next. That could happen before the Republicans nominate Trump.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. On a hot summer day, the last thing you want to feel is a blast of warm air when you turn on your air conditioning. A malfunctioning AC system will leave you uncomfortably shifting in your seat. Not to mention, it can affect the safety and performance of your entire vehicle and your productivity. Keep your AC system running smooth and your deliveries on schedule this summer with the following maintenance tip. Replace your cabin filters at least once a year, as dirty cabin filters are possibly the most common cause of AC system malfunction, or worse, failure. Replace your cabin filters more frequently if you operate in a dirty or humid environment.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. I have poopy days all the time.
Now, it makes me now look at that scene in Star Trek where Guinan, the counselor, was talking to Picard and said, I have a problem with number 2. I thought she was talking about Commander Riker.
Oh, yes. Make it so, number 1.
Oh,
Make it so, number 2.
No, he was number 1. Make it, he
Yeah.
would have to say number.
Well, no, he called his first officer number 1. Make it so, number 1.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He didn't
All
call
right.
him number 2 because that would have been weird. Make it so, number 2.
That blew my whole joke.
Make it so. That would have been funny, though. That would have been a joke every episode. Make it so, number 2.
And through my mind, just as we come back on the air, I go, play it, and okay, you got something here. Riker was number 1.
Yeah. First mate, basically, yeah. Right-hand man, number 1. Make it so, number 1.
Well, at least Data had no problem with bodily functions, right?
Well, a few oil spills here and there.
Links to everything Red Eye on the website redeyeradioshow.com.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. Hey, never forget, remember, Whoopi at one point, remember back in 2020, wanted Jill Biden to become Surgeon General because she thought she was a real doctor.
Yeah.
That was so I can't forget that. Yeah. All right, so yesterday, what a day. Again, it was one of those days where I just, you wake up and isn't it almost like surreal? Because you wake up and you're like, okay, what direction is this going in today? And by the time that I woke up, he had sent, the Biden had sent the letter to congressional leaders saying he was staying in, and then he already had done the interview on Morning Joe. And the best part about Morning Joe is where everybody could hear. It was almost like a Karine Jean-Pierre moment, except it was sound, where you could hear him flipping through papers as he was trying to answer. And so, talk about a softball interview. Of course it was, but I just want to play this because it's like, you think this helps? Here we go.
I'm curious, is that an allusion also to Donald Trump and the fact that Democrats, you believe, may now be doing the same thing that Donald Trump tried to do in 2020, and that is overthrow the popular will of Democratic voters?
Well, look, Joe, let me say it this way. The reason I've been out on the road so much all over the country, and while Trump is riding around in his golf cart, filling out his golf cart before he even hits the ball. But anyway, he hadn't been anywhere in 10 days. I've been all over the country.
There's not a complete thought in there.
There isn't. They're saying golf cart or card. What? Yeah. And
but nobody's. I know what he meant, but nobody, and you know what he meant.
Yeah.
The video that came out where Trump was on the golf cart and said, talked about the fact that about Biden, the situation that he's in. Mm-hmm. Somebody had a camera there.
Right.
You could tell Trump didn't know the camera was there.
Yeah.
But that's what he was trying to say, is that Trump's riding around in his golf cart, but he did going after Biden, but he didn't complete the sentence. But the fact is, Trump isn't going to do anything right now, and he shouldn't do anything. You just sit there and let the Democratic Party, when you've got a party collapsing in upon itself, you don't get in the way of it.
Leave it. Let it burn.
Right. But that didn't make any sense at all.
No, it didn't. In one part in the interview, it's, look, I'm staying in. I'm running. And if somebody wants to challenge me, they can jump in and they can show up at the convention. I'm like,
I like the part where he pulled the Trump, where he's talking about the party elite on him out. That he's the he's not the establishment candidate.
Right. And then he trying to say tell Joe Scarborough that he's not, I don't mean you guys. I don't know.
Where does Scarborough stand right now? It's 12:38 Central.
Yeah, exactly. It was every time he does something to try and fix what's going on, he ends up breaking it even worse. After the debate, how many times has he tried to correct it? And it's just made it worse. And I think the Scarborough thing was horrible. The Stephanopoulos interview was horrible. You're not going to keep him from doing it because it's Hunter, a crack addict, that's in charge, apparently.
Oh, and then John Kirby actually saying, well, I guess the president this week, before the end of the week, is going to give a big boy press conference.
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
Well, because that was said last week to Kirby.
Right.
When's he going to give a big? But the fact that it's the campaign. Sorry, you can't separate the two.
Right.
But with the administration saying he's going to give a big boy is almost like, okay, he's going to actually try to do something that's absolutely normal to everybody else. Or when you say big boy, the inference is this is a child who needs to do something that's more adult.
Well, it was just the night of the debate. Joe Biden, you did it, Joe. Yay!
My God, I know.
You pinned the tail on the donkey. I mean, it's on his nose, but you did it. Way to go all by yourself. You're a big boy now.
Let's see. Let's go to CNN. This is Jake Tapper yesterday talking about the state of the race right now, the state of Biden, and the Morning Joe interview.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues compared to the rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
The fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out on your way to go, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly. Many Democratic officials with whom I've spoken are worried that President Biden and his family and his inner circle appear to be in complete denial, not just about whatever might be wrong with him, but the state of his candidacy.
Yeah. I mean, now there are only roughly a half dozen people denying it. The liberal media is no longer denying it. We all see it. We've seen it from the beginning. They were lying about what they were seeing. They wanted you to believe you weren't seeing what you were seeing. But now, everybody acknowledges exactly what we've been seeing all along. And there's no way to change it. You can't get around this. What's the convention going to be? Oof.
Well, if they, and this is what we were talking about before the bottom of the hour, the plan is for a month before the convention, which isn't far away. That was the plan, that they would have a virtual nominating process because they don't want insanity. So now you've got to have Biden wanting to get that done as soon as possible, because then he has a nomination. If he has the nomination, there's, at that point, he officially has a nomination. He's not going to pull out.
No. Nope.
Because when sending that letter yesterday, then going on Morning Joe.
Yeah. No, he's...
And being as defiant as he is.
And by the way, in that letter, telling Democrats this needs to stop, that over the last 10 days or so, everybody's been talking about this, and all the talk about this needs to stop. He wrote that in the letter to the Democrats on Capitol Hill. Basically, those are your marching orders. Quit talking about it. You can't ignore it. There's no way, there's no coming back from this. If the Democrats, if the Washington Post, the New York Times, and all the Democrats on Capitol Hill had ignored it after the debate, it would have been, of course, laughable for them to do that. Then they could keep ignoring it, and it would still be laughable. Now it's out in the open. They're talking about it. They've issued their concerns repeatedly, and you can't just stop talking about it, as he said they need to do in the letter.
And Biden's almost made, when I heard this, I went, my God, he's making talking points that Republicans can use in some way, where he said, I've received over 14 million votes, 87% of the votes cast across the entire nominating process. I have nearly 3,900 delegates, making me the presumptive nominee over our party by a wide margin. Now, do we now say that the process didn't matter? That the voters don't have a say? Well, what you're talking about is the fact is the Democratic Party doesn't believe in democracy.
Right,
I mean,
right.
they're already losing the democracy issue to Trump already, which has to be pretty frustrating if you're a Democrat out there figuring, oh, we've got this all sewn up. This
Right.
is all, Trump is going to destroy democracy, and we're not. And then this blatant attempt, this is what Biden's trying to sell, this blatant attempt to destroy democracy by the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And by the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Exactly.
They wish to destroy democracy. They don't want the democratic process to go through. I mean, it's just, I wake up and I'm just walking around the house and, I got the phone I can't get the phone out of my hand because you wonder what the hell's going to happen next. Because you wake up and you're like, okay. Or you wake up, you go, I wonder if he's out today. Oh, no, just the opposite. He's sending this letter and then on Morning Joe and challenging and being defiant. And then you see, AOC comes and backs him. Now, Warner, who, was going to hold that meeting with the Senate Democrats and decided not to, because they said, well, it's going to leak out. Everything we say is going to leak out. And then Jeffries came out. He supports him now. So now you've got this, which is going to be fascinating because they don't know where to go, but the donors are watching the polls. And the donors are going, I'm not going to blow, the big donors and the big, that give to PACs especially.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blow this kind of money. And did you see Adelson? $60 million to run during the Olympics.
Yeah.
Targeting Wisconsin, Michigan, and I forgot the other state. It's targeting 3 of the states, $60 million ad during the Olympics. Was it
Pennsylvania?
I'll go back and look at it, but it's three of those states, and it's like, whoa,
yeah.
And so now, really, the massive attacks, and this is the thing, anything about Trump is now old.
Yeah,
anything you throw against Trump is old. The problem with the debate and everything that has happened since the debate, which the majority of his appearances have been scripted, has made the situation worse for him. It keeps, every time he does these things to save himself and hurts himself, it becomes the new current bottom of the barrel.
No, you're absolutely right. It keeps getting worse. And the Stephanopoulos interview was supposed to be, okay, we're going to show that, he's fine. And that didn't work. Okay, put him out there on Morning Joe. That didn't work. But they're not going to, they're going to keep doing this. These are the people advising him. This is what he wants to do. No one's going to change their plan, and they're only making it worse. And here's what he wrote in part in the letter to the Democrats on Capitol Hill. The question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end. He's telling Democrats on Capitol Hill, stop talking about it. They can't, because they're on the down ballot. They can't stop talking about it. Their political future is on the line. And that's his defiance. And here he is right now, head-to-head with his party. The reason Trump doesn't have to say anything is because the battle with the Democrats is an internal battle with their guy and not Trump.
Well, the best thing is when you think about it, Biden coming out and saying, and Trump isn't out there saying anything.
He doesn't need to.
No, now I'm not. I can see a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm not going to vote for Trump.
Exactly.
Trump isn't saying anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the reason.
Right.
That's how bad it is right now. And the poopy whoopy vote is not going to save him.
Exactly.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Remember when months and months ago we said, look, every election is unique?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this one's kind of going to stand out in history. I mean, historians will look back at this and go, and we're not even, we, in the letter, we have, whatever it is, 119 days, whatever it is, that the president wrote to Democrats on Capitol Hill. And I thought to myself, oh, my gosh, you just made it worse by telling them there's a lot more to go between now and November 5th. Wow.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We will continue with as the Biden world turns, soap opera here, just to also be covering other stories that are out there that we find fascinating. Did you see the public perception of colleges now?
Yeah.
Wow. Only 36% of Americans are confident about the value of a college education, a confidence level that has declined from 57% in 2015. Most Americans, meanwhile, say they believe higher education in the United States is headed in the wrong direction. A mere 36% of adults say they have a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in higher education. The results of a recent poll conducted by Gallup and the Lumina Foundation found, according to a report by Associated Press. It is shocking to me that the people who have low or no confidence is actually increasing, said Courtney Brown, the vice president of the education nonprofit Lumina said. Notably, confidence in the U.S. higher education system is even slipping among those who answered that they felt good about it, as fewer Americans said they have some confidence, with more answering very little or none than the previous years. Well, I mean, come on. Everybody does a return on the investment.
Yeah.
Everybody does that in their they may not call it return on investment, but that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, kind of like the donors with Biden. You know you're not going to get anything out of it, so you just give up. But with college, that's been in play to some extent for decades now. But now, after the whole radical thing, and really the exposure, it was one thing to say, well, all the administrators and all of the professors and all of them, they're all on the left. And people would go, yeah, but, we'll go and we'll get our education. But then the radical nature of who they are rose to the surface in recent years, and people are going, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't see, in fact, wait a minute. What am I doing? What am I paying for? What am I getting? Which goes back to the Mike Rowe thing. All right,
yeah.
What am I gonna focus on to get some kind of return? And it's interesting hanging out with my oldest grandkids on vacation, and their friends, and talking to their friends and what they're going to do, and they're talking about med school, law school, all these things where they say, okay, these are things that I want to do. And it's not necessarily, hey, I think I can make a lot of money at it. It's that I know, and what I was getting from it, I know that if I go and I work hard, that I'll get out of the school, I'll get what it is I'm looking for. It wasn't, in fact, none of the conversation was about money. It was about, in terms of what they're going to make after college, it was about what do I want to do in life. And so it ranged from everything from nursing to one's going to school to be one of the friends of my granddaughter's is going to med school, starting pre-med soon, and the other one is starting pre-law. His family actually is in already; they're already lawyers, so that kind of runs in the family. But then you look at it, and talking to other family members that are ASE certified mechanics, that are, doing things with their hands and went to trade schools. And again, this goes back to the Mike Rowe side of the conversation. And when you look at it from that practical nature of, all right, what's going to be needed? And then I think you have to introduce the thought of AI, of, all right, I'm going to go and spend whatever on this elite education at this elite campus. What am I actually going to get? That piece of paper isn't going to be enough, especially if in 4 years, if I'm entering college now, in 4 or 5 years, all of a sudden AI is catapulted everything into the stratosphere in terms of, and also changed the landscape of jobs and careers tremendously. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to have to do something that is more practical in nature, and that's going to get something back. I mean, there are things that AI isn't going to be a part of in terms of doing the actual job. It will be assist in many ways, but things like plumbing, things like electricians, auto mechanics, and things like that. AI will be a part, again, of the process, but it won't be doing the job.
Right. Somebody has to actually do those jobs. And you and I have said this for the longest time, that if you have technical experience, if you look at going to college today, if you look at what is probably a more a better, if you're looking for a guarantee, there's never a guarantee.
Right.
But if you're looking what is closest to a guarantee, I'm going to guess that still, what is it? I think it's probably the 8-9 different curriculum of engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, electrical engineering, everything that they, probably that's the one where you would get a greater return on investment, because those are people that do things and make things and design things that have to be there for society. I was last week I extended my time back in Buffalo because I didn't mention it yet on the air, but my aunt died, my dad's younger sister, and it was a shock to everybody because it wasn't like there was a long expectation. Now, as we say, she was my dad's younger sister, 95.
Yeah.
And so I stayed an extra day because my cousins asked me if I would do the eulogy. And so I said, okay, by the way, you want to know something that's tough? This is easy doing this.
Yeah.
When you have cousins come up and say, could you read the eulogy for our mother? We just don't think we could get through it. You want tough, you want pressure, that's pressure.
Yeah.
And you'll like this. So we meet, the day before at the funeral home, my one cousin, I went up to them. I said, okay, you guys got the script or the talking points, whatever you want. It's like, oh man, we forgot to bring the hard copy of it. So they said, okay, let's, they transferred. I was able to get it on my phone. So the next morning we show up and we went over a few things. Next morning I show up and I said, okay, you have the hard copy? Because I wanted to make some edits, and they forgot the hard copy, so I had to read it off my phone. But there I am. I realized There I am, the service is going on, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm in the church service, for my, and I'm looking at the phone because I'm trying to get the eulogy right. I'm going through it, making sure that not that I couldn't read it because I went over it a couple times, but making sure I had my thumb, was scrolling the screen in the right way, because if it was too far right or too far left, it would zap it off.
Yeah.
And so, and I turned to my my second cousin, and I just said, "Oh, just so you know, I'm not on my phone texting. I'm trying to go." So no, I can see that you were doing the eulogy,
right?
But I had a great conversation with him. Great kid. I say kid, 35 years of age, and we started talking. And he was actually on the same flight that I was coming back here. He doesn't live in Dallas, lives in Denver. But we had a great conversation that probably will get longer, because we were talking about just life and careers and all that stuff. And I've said what I've said to most people, and I don't know if it was Mike Rowe that said it. Don't do what you want to do what you're good at.
Yeah. Right.
And as I was talking to him, the advice that I would have is that you don't know what you're going to like, because odds are you're not going to be doing exactly what you want to do in life. What makes the job more enjoyable is when you get the power and control.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, what you think is the direction that your company goes, because they have trust in you. You've built up that trust over a period of time, and therefore your decisions, your management decisions, number one, you can make those decisions, and number two, you see they work, so you have a career in making the decision and setting the direction of whatever business entity or industry entity that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for myself, because most people, when they meet you, believe, and they meet me, so you always want to be a talk show host, right? Absolutely not. When this was forced upon me back in 1989, I did not want to do talk radio. It's the last thing. You might as well have said, "Gary, we want you to clean out septic tanks," because I didn't want to do this. I didn't know. And I was in my 30s at that time. I had no idea that this is what I would absolutely love doing 24/7. You understand that, because you're always doing this. Yeah. It never leaves you. And there are few jobs, probably most jobs, people would say, well, this is what I do. It's not who I am. This is a kind of job that eventually becomes who you are, and you sign your name to it every single day. And so it's almost imperative, because that's the one thing, and I'm sure any talk show host has gone through this, when if you have a management that says, well, we don't like this, it's like, yeah, but it's my show. Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's the company's show. We give you the time. Yeah, but I put my name to it. But when you eventually get the trust of the people that employ you, and you get the power and control, which would be the editorial, control over what you do. And most talk show hosts have that. And when you succeed at that, there's nothing more enjoyable. And I think you can extrapolate that out to any business. When you go to college, a lot of people just say, well, I'm going to college for what I want to do, not what I'm good at, because at 18, you don't know what you're good at.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the problem, is people start looking and going, well, if you're going to have that kind of cost, and I'm not sure where I'm going to go, this may not be the right direction. Maybe it is time for me to go into the workforce, because I do believe that right now, at this time in history, if you really have a great work ethic, there are just incredible opportunities out there for you. May take a few years, but if you've got a work ethic, I believe that most management, not all, but most management, you can get along with.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
they're looking for that.
Well,
they're looking for that self-start.
One thing that in the music and also in the comedy world, and people that you can get along with, makes a huge difference when you have a solo artist that hires, people for their band, the so-called hired guns. Having that likability is a huge, huge thing. Mm-hmm. Stand-up comedians, the same thing, because the bigger a comedian gets, they start taking their own openers and feature comedians on the road with them, and you all have to get along. And so it's the same in any workplace, especially right now. But more importantly, those employers want to know you're not going to come in and try and put up, your agenda, that you're not coming aboard to bring your agenda to this whatever the culture is in that office, that you understand the mission statement. And if they believe you've been radicalized by universities or anywhere else, they don't want any part of that. They want to separate from that as much as possible, because they know right now it's critical that everybody be on their game in order to survive financially. Mm-hmm. And there's just, honestly, no other direction to go. Everyone is fighting for market share right now, and that's going to be the case for a number of years. And they have to do it with the right people. And you can choose which way you're going to go. But if you show up and you're in the game for, again, that overall mission statement, then your rise will be very quick in today's world.
I think when I mentioned, engineering return on investment, because you're creating things, you actually have technical ideas to make something work. But I think across the board, you talk about in radio or in whatever, what pays content creation. If you can create the content that's unique. Mm-hmm. Same thing, the creation of things. I remember talking to Steve Byrne, the stand-up comedian and actor, had the show on TBS, was it Sullivan and Son. Mm-hmm. And I remember him going to his friend Vince Vaughn and saying, what do I do? And he goes, you got to create content.
Yeah.
It's content. Right. You got to write. You got to create the content.
It's what Nate Bargatze right now is focused on, who is huge in the stand-up world. But he's also expanding out into becoming a producer and doing things and producing other things, which is exactly what Steve Byrne has been doing. Right.
So if you create, but I mean that in any job,
yep.
You create things and you get things done. You actually get tangible things done, which in the technical fields, you can quantify that.
Oh yeah,
this thing's done. Therefore, you get money.
Right.
And I think that's what people are looking for. Is like gender studies. What am I creating? Mm. I'm creating bull.
Yeah, exactly.
Poopy.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Did you hear Mayor Johnson in Chicago about the 109 shootings in Chicago this past weekend? I think 19 deaths because of it.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Okay, let's start it again here. We missed it. Okay.
Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
Wow. You had to go back to Nixon?
Yeah.
You couldn't blame it on Trump? Wow. Let's go, Brandon.
Well, as we've said for the longest time, we've been talking about, and Republicans have been talking about, crime and the insanity of what's gone on in Democrat cities for
and Democrats
decades.
Ignore it.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Time to get back to the daily soap opera as the Biden world turns. Wow. The press briefing yesterday. Now, this is Ed O'Keefe from CBS and Karine Jean-Pierre, okay?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking
Kevin
me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also said to you,
condition.
Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
You cannot
We
share
have to.
names
We have
of
to.
others he would have met with.
We
But
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand that.
I looked it up before I came out here.
hear
It's
you.
right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
Question of the doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public information.
I hear you.
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Karine, unless the White House answers the
hold
question.
on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth with me in this aggressive way.
Missed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What do you missed about? What do you missed
Everything
about?
he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked.
Oh, my God.
It's on fire. The entire room is on fire. Run.
Yeah, the laughter is the fact it's actually not a Karine Jean-Pierre, it's an Ed O'Keefe. She's been BSing you and not answering your questions for years, and now you get upset about it.
And if you've been ignoring the decline in the president's cognitive state, that's also on you for not asking the questions before. But no longer is it just Pete Ducey asking the questions.
Oh, Jonathan Turley yesterday was talking about the fact that Pete Ducey was waving his hand. They would not go to Ducey, and they went to another reporter twice.
Yeah.
And they would not go to Ducey yesterday.
Right.
Well, don't have to.
They don't. It doesn't matter who you go to now. Unless Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are sitting there in the seats, and they want to ask a question. But this is exactly what you're going to get, and it's not going to change. It's 118 days now till the election. The president pointing that out in his letter to the Democrats just made it worse. I mean, in the letter it was 119 days. And you're just reminding them that Oh, there's so much more that could happen.
Okay, I've got to play the cut from Jon Stewart.
All right.
They bleep out all of his curse words that are there are quite a few, but
Good.
Here we go. You ready?
All right.
All right. Here we go.
Authoritarianism and Donald Trump aren't the only threats our democracy faces. An arthritic status quo, unable or unwilling to respond in any way to the concerns of voters who just received new and urgent information about their candidate, also erodes confidence and faith in the system of government. Get on board or shut the up is not. Yeah. Honestly, though, get on board or shut the up is not a particularly compelling pro-democracy bumper sticker.
Talking about Biden.
Yeah.
That's all about Biden.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing, because they always have to lead with, there's more problems than the authoritarian Trump. And it's like, you can't, they say it, but they can't make the argument, because there is no president who has been slapped down by the Supreme Court for executive orders not wanting to follow what the law is and the Constitution has been slapped down by the courts as many times as, when you think about it, as many times as Biden has.
Right.
Over and over again, from the vaccine mandates to
student loans.
To student loans, to the EPA, just over and over and over and over again. And so you really can't, you can't make that. They like to use that, but when you actually break it down, they might back off of using that argument. They only use it when there is no cross-examination of that thought process.
Right.
But yeah, when you lose Stewart, you have some troubles.
Yeah, it's, again, down to now a half dozen people. Think about this. There are a half dozen people that are keeping Biden in office, keeping Biden on the ballot. It's that very inner circle, including Hunter Biden, that are part of it. And that's it. Everybody else wants him gone. And his defiance is making it so much worse. His defiance to his own party ahead of their convention. And how are they going to get that done? We've been asking that. We were asking that long before the debate debacle. How do you get it done with the radicals? Well, forget about the radicals. Now it's Joe Biden on stage Thursday night next month at their convention. Does he get booed? Do they have a
well?
Do they have a Ted Cruz moment where a prominent Democrat gets up there and says, "Vote your conscience"?
No, because you make a great point, because at that point everything will be decided. I mean, if he's there, he will have been the nominee for a month.
Yeah,
there is nothing that he can do that's going to change the minds of Americans. They have tried since the debate in very controlled environments to rehabilitate the image of this president, and it has gotten worse every time they've tried to do it.
Right. Yeah, and they can't, and Hunter's in charge of putting him out there to prove over and over again that he's fine, when every time he does that, he proves the opposite.
Well, now it's a screaming match with Karine Jean-Pierre with the liberal mainstream media.
Right. And how do you get beyond that?
I don't know. But if this was the Democrats, Democrats view this was their out. Yeah. And they believe the out was early enough to get somebody else in there, because they know, they believe that Biden does not have the cognitive abilities to be president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They believe that.
Right.
And that's why we are where we're at right now.
Right.
And so Biden coming and saying, nope, this is it. And if you try to do it, then your anti-democracy is going to hurt. That's going to hurt the Democratic Party even more. That's losing the argument of who most would protect democracy, Trump or Biden. Which brings me to this question, though, when Jon Stewart, again, the authoritarian Trump, as a political, putting my political consultant hat on, I don't think Trump needs to respond to any of that anymore.
Nope.
When you're up, as he was like 11, 12 points in the democracy thing, and the Democrats are fighting upon themselves, and there's Biden out there saying that the elite of the Democratic Party aren't for democracy, you just sit back. I would, if again, you put out political ads, but I think finally that Trump has figured out when it's time to say nothing.
Yeah.
And right now is the time. Now, he's doing some interviews, but the interviews aren't off the wall.
No.
And he waited such a long time. I mean, it's already been, let me see, in 2 days it'll be 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he can start talking now because he's going to start campaigning. He's going to do it. But he just stayed quiet, and now all of the fighting is Democrat against Democrat.
And the ads that the PACs and the Trump team are putting together that show Biden. Now, because here's the difference. Before the debate, the liberal media didn't acknowledge the moment on stage there in Normandy, the moment on stage at the Hollywood fundraiser. They weren't acknowledging those things. In fact, they were coming out saying they were false, they were made up, he didn't freeze, and now everybody knows it. So without the debate debacle, then your ads would look like, well, you had your friends over at Fox News, or the Daily Caller put something together, the Daily Wire helped you out, Breitbart helped you out, and you put all that together. Everybody now acknowledges what is going on, with the exception of a half dozen people in this country, and you can put those ads out now showing those moments with Biden, and you can plaster the internet with them, and I wouldn't stop. It would be so relentless. Those images would be everywhere you went. I wouldn't care. Every demographic, every town, everywhere, it would be plastered because we all now acknowledge it.
This may be the first presidential campaign. Okay, let me just make sure. Let me go back. That I've covered or been around where you have one political party that right now doesn't have to say anything.
Right.
All they have to do, because this is what you wish for. This is what, as somebody who has played in my mind political consultant many times, but I think our accuracy over the last 19 years when we do make predictions or give advice normally comes true. We're right more than we are wrong on it.
Right.
And I don't think it takes any great mind to do it. You just look and go, okay, what's being communicated right now? But this is the first presidential election that I've ever covered, maybe in my lifetime, maybe in the United States, where Trump doesn't need to say anything. All he needs to do, he doesn't need to make accusations. He will, and that's fine. But he doesn't have to go over the top. The ads can do the work for him.
Yep.
And all you're doing, and you said this a long time ago, the easiest campaign is just to point.
Mm-hmm.
Look, here, here.
Yep.
Trump doesn't need, simply has to run the ads, or the PACs need to run the ads. Here's a president that says, he has his full cognitive abilities, and you just play the audio.
And his own party knows it, and you play the audio and the video, and you show the New York Times and the Washington Post and all of the editorial pages, and you show all of those elitists on the left saying the same thing that you're saying in your ad. His cognitive decline is real, and now we all acknowledge it.
Yeah.
It would be never ending.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, we must note the evolution very quickly over the last day, where it was, well, no doctors since January, now neurologists 3 times during that we can't tell you who they are, and the Parkinson's expert also there, and it's like
8 times since last August.
Like all of a sudden the narrative has changed.
Right.
And that's, by the way, and that's why you had Ed O'Keefe. Everybody's screaming because nobody believes her.
Well, that's it. The
lost
story
credibility.
has evolved, and now it's like, well, we can't talk about it. Well, we can't talk. You already did. You were denying all this. And now it comes out. It's being widely reported, and I saw it, in fact, in liberal publications before I saw it on Fox News or Breitbart. And everybody is on this story, and now you're changing the story and trying to say we can't talk about it. No, you already talked about it. And it's time the American people know the truth on this. And I don't know what they do tomorrow at the press conference, but the media's not going to let up on this.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. Part of the problem that the administration has is every position that they take, the American public is against a majority.
Yeah, right.
This question was asked to Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. Here we go.
But there have been a number of people who have said, listen, why don't you have a cognitive test just to rule out that there are any issues? Would the president, would you counsel him to do that just to sort of put an end to these questions?
Andre, I hear you. The neurologists have said it is not warranted. The president himself, he said it today, he said it multiple times. And the doctor has said this. Everything that he does day in and day out as it relates to delivering for the American people is a cognitive test.
Well, that's a problem then.
He's failing.
I know exactly. Well,
he's failing the test repeatedly, and it's getting worse.
Well, over 70% of Americans believe he should take a cognitive test.
Right.
So you're losing on that. I swear they should just go in the bunker.
Yeah.
Seriously, because
they should. I was thinking about that. I thought, stop having press conferences, put out ads, spend as much money as you can, just because the ads are going to be. But frankly, use AI. Don't even get Joe involved in the ads. Use AI. You're going to need to anyway. So just go full on AI. And then be done. Don't do anything else. don't talk. Stop talking. Have Hunter,
have Hunter talk.
Find one of his friends
Hunter,
so you guys can just get, all plastered and whatnot. And
Hunter talking would be better.
well, I mean, it's if you're going to, you need to, you honestly need to stop everything because it really is down to a half dozen people. It's a half dozen people now that are defending Biden. Yeah, you have Schumer. I'm with Joe. Boy, that's great. Hey, how are those raw burgers coming along?
Apparently, there were no Democrats grilling last week on Independence Day.
Apparently, they we can't do that either.
They learned.
I mean, everything is fake, and there is nothing.
Where's the beef?
Where is the beef? What is that? Wow, I support E. coli. The problem that they.
Oh my God!
The problem, honestly, is that they know the problem is that they have to be out there. We don't have COVID. You're not going to have your old COVID to kick around anymore. You don't have it as an excuse to hide under in the basement anymore. This was going on, by the way, in 2020, and we all know it.
Yeah.
This was going on long before the debate, and we all know it.
And he's a lot worse now than he was back then.
And it's a lot worse. The decline, it started likely years ago, but the measurable decline since January of 2024 has been so obvious to everyone, and they're not going to stop. They keep trying to prove it over and over and over again.
The problem is here, the difficulty that we have right now. Understand our suffering. We're not sure where to go right now because the Democrats agree with our opinions from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we're lost.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do.
Well, think about it. We went from pre-debate of, we're not, and think about this too. The special prosecutor, her and the interview and everything else and the tapes being, well, we're not going to release the entire recording because of AI. To post-debate, we really need to use AI more for the president.
Oh, who was that?
Who
we
was
read
it
that yesterday.
Yeah. And that's just one example of how things have changed drastically. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and all of these liberal publications, there's nothing wrong. Joe Scarborough, F you if you can't handle the truth. He's more vibrant than anybody in Congress, and blah, blah, blah. To post-debate,
and then he
has to go.
And just last month, remember, last month was the one, I got him confused the other day, but last month was where he talked about Kevin McCarthy and that Biden is more aware than any Republican Speaker of the House that he's ever been with.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, that wasn't believable.
No.
None of it is.
And now they're all, something's very wrong and he needs to be gone. And we're getting closer and closer to the convention for the Democrats. That's coming up in August. And then, of course, now we're 118 days out from November 5th. That's not a long time. That's not a long time at all, unless you realize that your party is stuck with a guy whose cognitive decline is real and his defiance is even greater. That's your situation.
And then, to make it worse, because everything that they do, think about it, all the scripted things that happened after, you know, the scripted radio interviews that they put together. He might not have a script. He had notes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he may not have a script, but he had notes yesterday, without question, as we know. And the Stephanopoulos interview didn't help him at all.
Right.
So everything that they've tried to do, find the friendliest, most softball interviews that we can get, and the rest are scripted, and it's been a complete and total disaster.
Yeah. I mean, it's just every time that they try and prove everything's fine, it gets worse.
And then Jill Biden being out after the, what a good boy.
Yeah.
You got all the, here's your treat.
Exactly.
Take your doggy treat. Here you go. Take your doggy treat, Joey.
Exactly.
I mean, because that was, you know, you and I said it, that was worse than anything of the debate.
Yeah.
Because she treated him like he was a child, like he was, I don't know, a second grader who, you know, did well on a spelling test, and you're going to reward him. I mean, that was bizarre. But then again, yesterday after he had his interview, he had nothing the rest of the day. She was doing 3 campaign stops.
Right. Yeah.
And then the problem is, for that, is the Lady Macbeth is taking over now. You see it on social media everywhere.
Yeah.
Lady Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Lady Macbeth, like in the story, Lady Macbeth, helping Macbeth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, basically taking over for him. And that's the image that you get. She's out there. He's not out there. And then after the debate, he wasn't speaking. She was treating him like a dog or a second grader. You did so good. Let me pet you on your head. Here's your treat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most bizarre stuff I've ever seen in politics. It really is.
And there's no fix. The only fix would require Biden himself to say, I'm done.
Yeah,
And
because
he's
what
not
is
going to do
all right?
that.
Let's you could delve into that. Play devil's advocate. What is the fix? We always love to play political consultant. What is the fix? I'll tell you the only fix: shut everything down. Don't say anything until you get the nomination.
Yeah, for the campaign. Stop talking.
Stop talking.
Stop talking.
That's the only thing that I, as a political consultant, could tell. But they can't do that because it's too late to do that. Because if you do that, then the Republicans will pound on you saying, wait a minute, now he's gone under because he can't do anything.
Right.
So even that's not going to work.
Well,
but that's the best of the worst options, I believe.
Right. And the question would be, it would be the loudest question ever. People screaming, where's the president? Where's the president? Yeah. Because then it becomes obvious that not only is he not fit to run, he's not fit to be president any longer. If he's in hiding, we have to believe that he's in cognitive and physical decline.
Well, that's why the Democratic Party is where they're at right now. When you have no options, when every option is the wrong option.
Oh, it's so horrible. I mean, seriously, it's horrible. This is why they know. They all know it. The only option is for him, and they, by the way, they touched on this and they repeated this, something we said right away last week while we were out. It was in the liberal media ranks. If he's not going to run, he also has to resign.
Yeah.
And it will be a cold day in D.C., which will take a few months, before he's going to do that.
Yeah, and that's you just nailed it right there. That's the other problem. All right, I'm leaving it because why?
Why?
Because I can't win. Why?
Why?
Because people don't believe I have the cognitive ability not to, because the press and the Democrats are talking about he doesn't have what it takes to win. The public is saying he doesn't have what it takes to be president. That's the problem.
The display happened already. It's not something that we think might happen down the road, and so he's going to bow out now and let someone take over and run, and then he's going to not run again in case it gets to that point. We're already here, and everyone knows it. So you can't do one without the other. You step down, which means you have to resign. Neither of those are going to happen because they're both one in the same.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So you're wondering, what direction this is going to go, not with the Biden family, because we know where the Biden family stands, but with members of Congress. This is Democrat Representative Stephen Horsford from Nevada on CNN, and here's what he had to say.
More than 70% of voters think that President Biden is not demonstrating the capacity to be president. 56% of Democrats say that they would be better off with another nominee. Those are the concerns that I'm talking about that are showing up in the numbers and that are affecting his approval rating.
What I find interesting is the issue is more around ageism and ableism and not what this President Biden, has done.
Well, yeah, right now it's about, and by the way, call it ageism if you want, but it's not about his age, it's about his cognitive abilities. That would, again, because he mentioned both ageism and ableism, and ableism is the fact that if you're not an able-bodied person, there's discrimination against you,
right,
as there should be if you want to be president of the United States.
Yes, there is a qualification, there is a standard, and it's very clear, and the American people count on that standard.
Right, but it's not, and I want to make this also point clear, as we've had a few times, Democrats and some of the media, it's about his age, it's about his age. No, it's not about his age. It's about his cognitive abilities. It is about whether he is mentally fully able to be president of the United States.
Yep.
So if you want to say ableism, fine. You use whatever ism you want. There are some positions where you don't get a break on that, and this is one of those.
Yep. Sorry, if he's not able, it's real simple. He can't do the job, and the confidence in him doing the job has depleted and is depleting even further by the minute.
And if you think that that is the defense that is going to work, Representative Stephen Horsford, you're wrong. That's not going to change. Oh, well, now you're saying it's ageism and ableism.
No.
I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody to come out and say it's climate change.
It could be climate change. That's
climate change.
Yeah, I think it could be climate change.
Yeah. We can't explain it. We're just telling you what they throw out.
Yeah, no, I think it's clear. The oceans are rising. Presidents are in decline. I don't even know why anybody has any more questions. And with that, we'll end the press conference. Good day. I said good day. And it's not. That's how bad it's gotten. This is where we are. And, it's like being in the bottom of a furnace. And you're trapped here, and the fire's burning. There's no ladder out of the furnace. There's no way out of this.
And Eric, every single thing, for example, the White House doctor. Oh, okay, he did business dealings with Jim Biden.
Yeah.
He's all part of the Biden family.
Of course.
Influence peddling that Comer's now looking into.
Of course.
I mean, it's like every single thing. The Republicans must be, we don't have enough time, but we've got to find enough time to jot down every single thing that is said during the day because every single thing is working against the Biden campaign.
Right. It's probably the most prolific thing Barack Obama ever said. Never underestimate the ability of Joe Biden to F things up. Anyone have any questions about that? Anyone?
Yeah,
I mean, seriously. When people talk to me and go, you should have run for office at some point and years ago, you should run for office. You should run for office. And I always think to myself, I would be, because the thing is I would be worse than Ron Paul. I'd be worse than Dr. No. I'd be Dr. Hell No on everything. And so we've talked about the fact that, we're not electable. And I joke in a self-deprecating way about, about how I would mess things up, but it wouldn't be anything like this. I don't know how you let it get to this point. Well, we do know exactly, actually, how it got to this point. There's a playbook. There is a recent history. It all played out this way because, number one, the Democrats made it happen. The rank and file Democrats made it happen. They all denied it as it was happening, as the cognitive decline was happening. They all denied everything that was going on. You don't even know how good the economy is. The border's not broken. The border is secure. None of them were screaming at Mayorkas. And here we are. Everything's broken, and the president is incapable of being president. We know exactly how we got here.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when you want to our show.
And thank you.
A couple minutes after the show's done. The podcast which is a repeat of the show. You can hear, and we love the people that listen during the day. So if you listen during the day right now to what we're saying 8 hours later or 8 hours before.
We're talking to the people in the future now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are the people of the future.
You are the people of you are our future. To you, it feels like the present, but it's the future.
It's the future to us right now.
Yes, and you're living in the past. And you should stop doing that. No, you should keep doing that.
It sounds like Vice President speech there.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Imagine a podcast unburdened by what has yet to be, what will tomorrow not be already, was on the burden.
Last week on vacation, social media was going crazy with stuff from her. I mean, loops of her.
Yeah.
They loop stuff over and over again.
Yeah. You know what Biden needs to say? I've got it. All you shut up, or it's going to be her. I swear, it'll be her. So stop it.
Now that's a threat.
But you'd have many Democrats, you'd have many independents looking at it going, oh, no, he has a point.
Being in this bizarro world where we are right now, we need to go to Lawrence O'Donnell going after the New York Times.
Yeah.
We're playing this off the air. I'm looking at Eric going, what world am I in? Where are we? How is this happening?
Yeah.
And here we go. All right.
We just got this letter, and if you saw any of the White House press briefing today, it was the White House press corps, many of them, at their absolute worst in the way they approached Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, who was trying to be responsive to medical questions where there were limitations on what she could say. The New York Times reporting of the way the press secretary handled that was to say that she dodged the questions. That is not true. The New York Times is wrong about that. She responded to every one of the questions. She didn't answer the questions with the name that they were asking for of a particular doctor. She didn't give the answer the New York Times wanted or other reporters wanted, but she did, in fact, answer every single time the reporters kept banging on about a New York Times report today that indicated that a neurologist had visited the White House 8 times in the last year. Here is the full explanation of how that has nothing to do with President Biden and President Biden's health.
Okay, I just wanted to end it there because it was just nothing really comes out of it, but it's just Lawrence O'Donnell going after the New York Times, which is just we're in a different bizarro world right now. We really are.
Well, it is because you have to take a position. You have to decide where you are in all this. But reality is again at the feet of the liberal left. You know what you see. You know what this is. And you can't debate it. You're not debating. You got Lawrence O'Donnell now taking on the New York Times. But actually what he's taking on is reality. They're not debating, again, the right. They're not debating Breitbart or Fox News. You're debating reality. And if you choose to ignore the reality, well, that's on you. You can live in your delusional world. It's where you've been living for a while. Why change now? Why change anything? Man, I mean, seriously. What do you do next? What does the rest of this summer look like? Because Biden's just going to keep being Biden. Biden's just going to have to stay out there. You can't go in hiding. As we pointed out, we think actually that would be our first go-to, but the problem with that is then everybody's screaming, where's the president? He must be really bad now if he's not even coming out. So you have to stay out there. He's forced now to prove himself over and over again, and every time he tries to do that, he proves his incompetence. He proves that his mental decline is real. And that's all you got for 118 more days. Wow.
Because it doesn't matter what comes out of the White House now.
Nope.
Doesn't matter what letter's written. It doesn't matter what doctor is there. What people want to see. People want to see the president be able to answer questions for an hour.
Yeah.
Or 90 minutes or 2 hours.
Right.
Completely and totally ad lib and be cross-examined on that.
Yeah.
To be cross-examined on his answers, because that's where, you can, and I'm sorry, but this is like, I keep saying this president reminds me of the Married with Children episode where Al gets involved in a sports trivia show.
Yeah.
And he gets every answer right, but they don't want him because he doesn't want the right image. What they want is some hot woman. So he gets the great idea, my daughter. So his son, Bud, sits there and they just go through this marathon session of feeding her every single detail of every sporting event that's ever happened.
Yeah.
But the fact is, as they said, her mind now is full.
Yeah, right.
And if you try to put anything else in her mind, she'll lose a sports trivia fact, which ends up her losing it because they've fed too many of her brain was too overtaxed at that particular point.
Right.
And that's what it's almost what we're dealing with here, because every single time, think about this. Remember the excuse? He was overprepared.
Yeah.
What do you mean overprepared?
Overprepared.
You can never be overprepared for a presidential debate or a talk radio show. It's impossible.
Right.
You can never be. There's no such animal as overprepared.
Nope.
What they were trying to say is he couldn't handle everything they were throwing at him, which it was like, do you really? And we stated this not last week, but when we were on at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, no, sorry, you didn't. You might have overtaxed his brain and what he is able to handle in the brain, but there is no such thing as over preparation for a debate.
Well, and then the excuse came out in the first few days. Look, we're not going to let just a couple of hours, undo all of the work he's been done. If he can't handle a couple of hours, he can't handle being president. If he can't handle a moment on a stage in a debate, he can't handle being president. And they were defeating their own argument every time. They've been defeating themselves. Reality has been defeating them over and over.
My gosh, the Republican National Convention is next week.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Remember, the original sentencing date was supposed to be later this week.
Yeah.
It's now moved to September.
And that's the other problem the Democrats have.
Right. It's a week from Thursday is going to be Trump on stage.
Right.
And honestly, think about that. You get the RNC behind you, right? By a week from Friday, the Republicans' convention will be over. Trump will be the official nominee. We'll know who his vice president's going to be. And then it's all about Biden again. The media is going to want to, they're going to want all the sound bites they can get on Trump. Trump is still the bad guy, but their reality doesn't change.
Yeah, but what do you, as a Democrat, what can you succeed in hitting Trump with right now?
I don't know of anything. Because nothing's going to rise to the surface. Nothing is going to rise above the problem at hand for the Democrats. Because their hatred for Trump will remain. But all that actually makes the point even more important, that you've got to defeat him, and your guy can't do that.
Well, you can't win on the issues.
Nope.
You can't win on what the Democrats were hoping, which is the whole democracy. Good God.
Yeah.
How much wasted time we spent on that one. But who's worse for democracy? Because the public believes Biden is.
Right.
So you can't win there. You can't win on any of the major issues that people care about.
Right.
It's landslide numbers against you. And now people believe you do not have the cognitive ability to be president of the United States.
Right.
So it's not that we're partisans, because everybody knows if we think there's a weak spot politically when we analyze the politics of it, we'll say Trump is weak on that point.
Right.
But I don't know where you hit Trump on anything that isn't already so deep into each individual's mind that is settled, that is going to change on Trump. To sit there and say, January 6th, yawn, the polls show it has no effect. Nothing.
I don't know anything that does right now. In fact, the more that you point to anything that, what are you going to point to? The economy, Trump wins. The border, Trump wins. National security, Trump wins. cognitive ability, Trump wins. Support by their own party, Trump wins.
Trump wins, yeah.
Where are you going to go?
Right.
Your best bet in that is to
Trump.
If you're in the liberal media, you think about this. You might want to consider not covering the Republican National Convention, at least not giving it the play. Look, they all want the soundbite, and they'll edit heavily to get whatever soundbite, but it goes nowhere because the only thing you do is point out the contrast once again. You're going to see a united party behind their nominee, excited about the future, and you don't have any of that. None of it.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Did you hear? I'll play coming up on the top of the hour. Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's talk about this. I try to come out here every day and do the best job that I possibly can. I'll play this little ditty that she did coming up following the top of the hour, trying to convince America and the White House press corps that she's trying as hard as she can every day to come out there and give them accurate information. I listened to this and said, she's just ticking them off more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, oh, my gosh.
And again, trying to play the victim. You're just all on the attack. You're just attacking me, and all I'm trying to do is get you accurate information. I work hard. Wow.
I never worked so hard in my life.
I'll tell you what. How about that Joe Biden, huh?
I'm working hard every day. You know, I really don't. Honestly, I don't care whether they work hard or not.
The
don't, working hard part of it, I know they're working hard to do things that I hate.
Yeah, right. It's not the working hard part, it's what you're doing.
Right.
You know, you can work really hard as an arsonist. But that doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Well, I mean, it's why I can't be a mob hitman. It's hard.
Oh,
it's hard to.
It's a very complicated situation.
It's very hard to basically dismember a body after death. That's hard work. I don't want to.
That's why you have Nine Fingers Tony do it.
There may be the morality thing of it, but I mean, it's also hard work.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's now Eight Fingers Tony. Yeah. But he's good at his job. That's all that matters.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. All right, yeah, so I do have the Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday because of the back and forth, and it got heated yesterday. The reporters basically saying, you're not answering our questions, and so listen to this little monologue.
I just want to take a step back for a second, because I do take offense to what Ed alluded to. You know, come out here, every day there's a press briefing, and we do our best to give you the information that we have at the time. That's what we do. And we understand that freedom of the press, we respect the freedom of the press. You heard me talk about this last week. I appreciate the back and forth that we all have. I try to respect you, and I hope you try to respect me. And we literally do everything that we can. My team does everything that we can to make sure we get the answers to you. That's what we do. And sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we are not in agreement. But you know what? That's democracy. That is what is important, to have that healthy back and forth. And so to say that I'm holding information or allude to anything else is not unfair. It's really, really unfair. I think people who are watching and have been watching this briefing for this past week could say that we are doing our best in this briefing to provide the information that we have.
Yeah. Right.
That's just going to tick off the press corps now, because they've.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's lecturing them as if I am giving you I am the utmost. I am the epitome of fairness here.
I am offended.
And of making sure that the American public gets the answers to their questions.
I'm offended.
My God.
You don't know how hard this is. You don't know. We literally. No, you don't.
The vast majority of the White House press corps has let her walk all over them with her BS constantly, each and every day, and have never fought back. And so when they finally decide, okay, they've lost all credibility, we've lost all credibility, we're not going to get any talking points, let's push back. And then she immediately starts telling the liberal mainstream media that she has been the utmost in fairness, and how dare you do this to her when they've known all along.
Yeah.
She's a political activist, they're political activists, and now they don't like the direction of where this administration is going. They don't believe they can win, and now they want answers to their questions after not really ever caring about getting answers to the questions, except a very few of them. The New York Post, any conservative outlet, the Ducey, Jackie Heinrich, whatever. I mean, that's, but the rest, they've just been looking for talking points. They're all a bunch of political activists. That's what you've seen in the media over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Yeah.
And somebody commented, because yesterday we said, that there was a attorney that put out there on social media that, hey, the right knows what the left is thinking, because the right actually pays attention to the left, constantly wants. In fact, the left is so insane right now on the issues that the right makes sure that when anybody speaks particularly on an issue that they're pounding. I'll give you an example this week. The right's going crazy. They can't believe that the left is so stupid.
Yeah.
That the left is like, okay, the Democrats are like, we got to do something here. What are we going to do? We got to do something here because we got to get the focus off of Biden. I know what we're going to do. We're going to get all the Democrats in the House together. We are going to unite. We're going to unite against those Republicans that are saying that only American citizens should vote in American federal elections.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. That's not right. It's like, really? And so the right is all over that. The right wants that insanity out there.
By the way, that would mean some Russians would be able to vote too. We don't want foreign influence. We just want to make sure that you don't have to prove you're a citizen to vote.
And so there are some people, because I met, and I gave the example, I met somebody when I was on vacation. Actually, I know them. It's like, well, I don't like either candidate, but I especially hate Trump. All right, tell me where Trump is a radical. And I said, here's where Biden's a radical. Boom, 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 boom. Show me on what issue that Trump is a radical. January 6th. I go, I'm talking issues here. And it's funny because the person who was talking, he goes, no, he's talking issues.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't name one. Couldn't name one issue where Trump was a radical. Not one. And agreed completely and knew, Biden, this Biden is fine.
Yeah.
So, there is, that's not necessarily ignorance, but the fact is he doesn't know really how the right thinks, but the fact is the media does. The media, they all know. They're political activists.
Yeah.
They're not reporters. They're political activists. And stop it with anyone on the right, saying, well, this is a good time for the media to reflect about what they should be doing. No, it's not.
No.
They're simply moving on. It's next. There's no shame. There's no shame. Now, they may be getting a little bit ticked off of being played by this administration over and over again and then being thrown under the bus. How dare you not? When they know as political activists, they haven't pushed back on this administration at all. And finally, things get just so bizarre, and they see the party that they support losing and this administration self-destructing, and so they want some answers, or they wish to be strong in some way. But I still don't understand that part. I just said it and don't understand it because I can't figure out how they think. I know how they think. I can't figure out why they think that way.
Right. Yeah.
And so they get ticked off, and she just dresses them down like, how dare you? I'm trying to be so fair, when actually it's a very symbiotic relationship. She throws out BS. Hopefully you get your talking points. You really don't care because you agree with what the administration is doing. You agree with the insanity on the issues. But eventually, when it gets to the insanity of the White House and the media covering up for the president and his obvious cognitive problems that he is having, that for some reason was the point where they just said, okay, now we need to push back some. But the fact is, the White House has been playing with you, but you've been going along willingly because that's what your job is. You're not a reporter. The mainstream media and the White House press corps, they are not reporters. They are political activists.
Yeah. And it's, the situation that they're in now isn't going to change because now those political activists know that Biden can't get it done.
Yeah.
That Biden is going to be the reason in their mind that Trump wins. I don't believe that, but they believe that. That Biden is going to allow Trump to win. They're seeing the numbers. And I don't know how many of them or if any of them believe that Kamala Harris can beat Trump. They haven't even gotten to that point in their consideration yet. But they know that Biden, or they believe that Biden is going to allow Trump to win. And they're furious. And it's not going to change.
One of the things, there's the political part of all this, and there's the financial part of it, which we really haven't touched on yet. You did mention earlier that CNBC, it was the top article that they had. No one is picking up the phone. Joe Biden's fundraising confronts new hurdles after debate. President Joe Biden's fundraising operation started showing cracks in its once formidable armor almost 10 days after his disastrous presidential debate performance. Some of Biden's campaign bundlers have stopped making calls to potential donors since his June 27th debate, according to people familiar with the matter. No one is picking up the phone, said a well-connected Democratic fundraiser who raises money for Biden and the Democratic Party. This person and others were granted anonymity in order to speak openly about private conversations on a sensitive topic. A few of his bundlers are limiting their outreach to people in their personal fundraising networks after they either received no response at all to asks or else they received furious replies from people who question why they should be giving money to Biden after his substandard debate performance, according to people familiar with the matter. Bundlers are a crucial piece of any campaign financing strategy, typically wealthy and well-connected themselves. Bundlers agree to reach out directly to people in their personal networks, both social and professional, to ask for donations for campaigns and joint fundraising committees. Bundling is more of an art than a science. Some bundlers only ask people they know for small contributions, while others feel comfortable for asking for six-figure checks. The
Yeah.
key is that a bundler spends his or her personal capital asking friends, family, clients, and colleagues for what is essentially a favor to give money to a candidate who shares their values. Well, so that's a problem. That's a problem. But again, that's the money part of it. And as we brought you earlier, if you take the average of the polls, there's been a 12 to 13 point swing since 2020. As of right now, you go back to 2020, it's 12 to 13 point swing.
Well, and when the money dries up, that tells you everything. If you're at this point in the game, we're not going back 18 months and donors are going, yeah, we don't know yet. We're a little over a month from their convention, and donors are saying no. That's the difference here. If you're this late in the game and the money starts to dry up, wow. That's like being on a beach and watching the water just go out and you're thinking, what's going on here? That's the sign that a tsunami is about to hit. And I don't know in my lifetime if this has ever happened. I don't know if a president in modern times where everything is just dried up, just all the support is just seemingly gone.
I have never seen a campaign where all the major issues that the public is concerned about, that is driving them to the polls, favors one party completely, and then everything else does too.
Yeah.
Because the issues, and we're talking inflation and the border.
Right.
But then everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
When you have, they were talking about the fact that Trump was up, we were talking about, he was up by what, 0.3%, before the convictions, and then he was only up 0.1 or 0.2%. Well, those are all within the margin of error, as you and I said. And you and I actually looked at it afterwards and said, okay, the statement that the polls only showed better for Trump after the debate is not true.
Yeah, right.
Because we both noted that.
Right.
And any other thing was within the margin of error. So really the convicted felon thing, lawfare. That made it, and we know that the majority of the public thought that politics had more to do with the prosecutions than actually Trump breaking the law. The polls showed that.
Right.
So you take that into consideration. Think about that. There's been no other, tell me another Marion Barry.
Yeah.
Okay, go to a national level, though, where anybody has 34 felony convictions against them, and it means nothing in a campaign. Absolutely nothing, because of the lawfare, which is the fear that the opposition party has mobilized to take out their opposition through bogus charges, bogus attorney generals, bogus prosecutors, bogus judges. That's where we are right now. And now that's all falling apart because of some of the court cases and just the problems with the cases overall. But they were all going to be overturned to begin with.
Right.
And now it's just blowing up in their face.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing that they don't have any ammunition anymore. Because everything they throw at Trump ends up just pointing out the contrast. We said this going into the debate. All that Trump needs to do, and he, on his demeanor, he did this. Keep your demeanor in check. The only thing you're trying to do is show the contrast between yourself and the president, who is clearly in cognitive decline. That's your job. And he did it. Biden did most of the heavy lifting. but Trump did his part. And so now, what do you throw at Trump? Well, every time, because they knew this after the conviction. Well, gosh, we can't say convicted felon. That helps him raise more money.
Right.
We're creating a much bigger martyr.
When you can't say convicted felon because it's going to work against you, you have to ask yourself the question, why is it working against us?
And the Democrats didn't hold on to that at all.
No. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. House Democrats are planning to fight the Safeguard America Voter Eligibility Act, set to be voted on the week of July 15th, which would require state election officials to request proof of American citizenship before handing voter registration forms to applicants. The SAVE Act, which Representative Chip Roy has deemed critical to safeguarding the nation's elections from foreign influence, would require state election officials to mandate voter registration applicants provide proof of American citizenship. Such election officials would not be allowed to register applicants to vote in federal elections unless they have handed over proof of American citizenship, which can include a passport or a birth certificate. Non-citizen voting is a threat to election integrity, House Speaker Mike Johnson said yesterday. That's what the Democrats have decided to do, to unite over that, to move the conversation away from Biden.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Not good.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning, and thanks for being here this morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. All right, well, this was on Fox News yesterday. They were discussing Joe Biden talking about his economic plan and the lack of an economic plan from Trump. And Fox News had Steve Forbes on, economist Steve Forbes. Every time I hear him, I think of 96.
Yeah.
Because it was 96 where he started talking about the flat tax.
Right.
And that is what actually got Bernard Goldberg to write the book Bias, I believe, was the first book. Right? Is that his first book?
Yeah, I think Bias was first.
Bias was his first book, where he was working as a producer for Dan Rather.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought everything the media was doing was fair, and he had a contractor working at his house, and the contractor knew who Goldberg was and knew that he worked for him, and said, "Well, you work for a biased network." And Goldberg said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You guys are biased, and when I find the bias in a story, I'll let you know." And Goldberg said, "That's fine. Yeah, if you believe we're biased, absolutely." So I believe it was during the 96 run when Steve Forbes was talking about the flat tax. And I remember that because I had interviewed Steve Forbes in 96, and it was about the flat tax. So I'm guessing that's where it came from. And so the contractor, called up or whatever, Bernard Goldberg, and said, "I got the bias for you. Watch the Dan Rather report. Watch your CBS report on the flat tax and how they started out." So Goldberg watched it. And it started out, "Today we're going to examine Steve Forbes' flat tax scheme."
Yeah.
And he goes, right at that point, it was like, okay, he's
not
got
a plan, a scheme.
Right, a scheme. And he goes right there, and he said, every expert that they found was against the flat tax.
Yeah.
And Bernard Goldberg said, "I knew that wasn't true. I knew there were economists that, favored it." And he said what CBS should have done, on that story was, all right, let's take a look at, the flat tax and what Steve Forbes thinks about it, why he thinks it's a good thing, and find an economist that likes it and an economist that doesn't like it, and let the people decide on their own who's right. And he goes, and they didn't do that. And that's when he realized the bias in the mainstream media.
Yep.
But here it is. This is Steve Forbes, and they start out here. This is part of Biden talking with the Morning Joe crew yesterday.
You don't see a whole lot of CEOs flocking to Trump. You don't see any. You see the major economists out there talking about what I have been able to do. I don't hear anybody talking about his economic plan likely to bring America around and keep America first.
Steve Forbes joins me now. Steve, it's just that simple phrase that Ronald Reagan once used. Do you feel better now than you did 4 years ago? An overwhelming majority of Americans say no, they don't. How can he sell something that Americans say isn't true?
Well, as Ronald Reagan said on another occasion, there he goes again.
Yeah, right.
And it's true. When you factor in the cost of interest and payments people pay each month, the real inflation rate is probably twice what it is. People don't feel that they talk about wages going up, but they're going at a slower pace than they were a year ago. So people don't feel they're really getting ahead. And especially about half the people today feel they're falling behind rather than staying still or moving ahead. So, yes, some people are doing well, but a lot of people aren't, and there's no confidence in the future, especially when you see this massive spending and what we're going to need to spend on defense,
right.
And we're already paying on interest, which is just going to get worse.
And you mentioned the word future. It is all about the future. Expectations for Americans have always been high, that we are entitled to the American dream, which includes property. We know about inflation being bad. Americans are underwater with inflation, but they're terribly underwater with interest rates. The cost of owning a home has increased 100% in the past 4 years. The monthly cost of paying your mortgage has increased 100%. You can't fulfill your dream of the American dream anymore.
And then you have these crazy regulations coming along. Can't have a gas stove, can't have pizzas in New York from a wood-burning stove and the like. Air conditioning, they want to go. Anything that makes life better, they seem to have regulations that are going to make it worse. When was the last new dishwasher made that could do a load under, say, 10 hours? I mean,
Steve, my apartment building in New York has been without natural gas for over 3 months now. Governor Hochul has been ratcheting up all the regulations because she has this idea in her head of getting rid of natural gas for the city of New York and, in fact, the state of New York. It's happening not only on the federal level, but on the local level as well.
And natural gas is the cleanest fuel
right.
around other than
That's why we have
power.
Cleaner air right now. All right, next one.
There you go, just a little bit of it. But when it comes to the Republicans now, here it is, National Review. Phil Klein, Republicans make fiscal irresponsibility part of their official platform. For decades, a criticism of Republicans among limited government advocates was that the party would talk a big game about balancing the budget and reducing the debt when seeking power, only to toss aside those goals once in power. Ever since the party was taken over by Trump, Republicans have backed away from speaking of debt reduction as an important goal. Even as the situation has deteriorated, now they have made that fiscal irresponsibility part of their official platform. On Monday, Republicans released a skimpy platform that brings the party into conformity with the Trump campaign. There may be reasons for lack of details compared with previous versions of the documents, and party platforms are rarely read, mostly do not translate into actual policy, and typically make news only when they provide fodder for opponents. To the extent that the document does address the federal debt, however, is disheartening. The Republican platform promises large tax cuts by extending the Trump tax rates that are on track to expire, and also ending of the taxing of tips. While everybody loves tax cuts, the document also promises no cuts to Medicare and Social Security, the largest federal programs and the main drivers of the nation's long-term debt crisis. Vaguely, the platform promises to rein in wasteful spending, but at the same time, it promises tax incentives to new home buyers and expanded access to new affordable health care and prescription drug options. The document also calls for more energy production, higher growth, and increased tariffs, but even under the rosiest projections, none of those can make up for the trillions in deficits the other policies in the document would be guaranteeing. While Republicans claim they will bring down inflation, the wider federal debt created by their policies would make it harder to do so. Now, this is something that we've talked about for the longest time. We know, though, that there are Republicans in Congress that do want to cut. That's what we saw over the last year.
Yeah.
And the Congress, I believe, if they somebody's going to have to eventually cut. You're going to have to do that eventually. One of the things I said yesterday was there are a few things overall in the week that we were off. One was that we can see the three branches of government working now. You see it takes time, but you see what's going on in the courts. The also, and this is with the elections in France and England, it really doesn't matter, who gets elected anymore, because liberalism is now hitting reality. There's a limit to the time. What that time frame is, I don't know, but there's a limit to that time frame. And that also applies to Republicans when it comes to fiscal issues. We are now approaching $900 billion in interest on the debt. It's $900 billion you can't spend on other things. $900 billion. Yeah. And we'll soon reach a trillion, and that's something, if you have you've got $1 trillion worth of debt. You've got high interest rates in order to pay that off. It keeps going up and up and up. You're not really cutting the budget. You get into that, as we call it, the debt doom cycle, where you just get more debt and more interest and more debt and more interest, and that's going to keep inflation high. If Trump wants to come in and put tariffs across the board, that is also going to be inflationary pressure there. Now, I know that the Republicans, I know J.D. Vance has been out there saying that the last Trump tariffs didn't do that. Well, the last Trump tariffs weren't across the board on every product coming into the United States, and we didn't have high inflation already because of government spending and loose monetary policy, and we also didn't have close to $1 trillion in interest payments on the debt either. All those will accelerate the possibility of inflation. So if Trump does win, there are huge challenges if Republicans want to be in power for more than 2 years.
One of the stories there at CNBC is they cover their top story basically was the big Biden story, but then all of the other stories are related to Trump winning or Biden's decline. It's one or the other. But one story by Jeff Cox at CNBC, Trump's increasing election odds after the debate already affecting financial markets. And what the point made here, and I think it's way too soon on the markets to be knowing where it's going to go, because you don't know. And I think that's part of the point Jeff Cox makes in the article here. If Trump becomes president, what does he do? What does he do about inflation? Well, that is a quandary, Because here you have it. If you're going to get on top of inflation, you got to raise rates even higher. You're going to have to send us into a slight recession, or, it's maybe even a solid recession, depending on where we're at. I think right now we're not at that over 9% inflation rate, and I think you could raise interest rates or keep them where they are. But the problem, if you do that, is that inflation stays high. You're not bringing, people are looking for prices to come down. This is what happened. This is the quandary you get into after the win. Now what? Well, you've got to show that you're serious about inflation. Or the other possibility is we make money cheap again and we lower interest rates. You do that, and you can bet that inflation is here to stay. You either get on top of inflation or you keep it going where it's at, and you decide what that is going to be, because a recession is not good in politically. And even though it may get on top of that inflation, and also keeping the inflation high is also not good if you're going to get into the lowering of interest rates, if you're not going to be serious about that inflation.
Now, the other thing about the headline, Republicans make fiscal irresponsibility part of their official platform. There will be pressure for Trump if there's a Republican House and a Republican Senate to cut.
Yeah.
That pressure will be there, because at that point, you're going to have some pretty angry Republicans who wanted the government shut down over the last year a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And those are Republicans that mostly support Trump to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So if Trump gets in power, one of the problems is, as we've said, the situation is so bad that any solution to it is going to cause pain for the American public, and therefore could lose you the House or the Senate in 2 years. And that's the problem that you have, because the other problem that Trump has is, I don't believe that the people of the United States truly want to cut yet.
Right.
I don't believe they're at that point. And if the people aren't there and you don't win, there is, if you're not in, what you have is worse.
Right.
And that's what you're dealing with. Now, the Democrats are saying, but Trump spent more. Well, that was because of COVID, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
Would he have done so? Would Biden have spent more in regular time? Now, the other thing for Biden was it was easier for Biden to keep spending more because the level of spending was up there because of COVID.
Right.
And once you have all those funds there and you're spending that money, it's almost impossible to bring it down.
Mm.
Not that he tried, but it's still almost impossible to bring it down, because the people of the United States, even though they recognize that inflation is caused by government spending, if it's taken away from them, they don't want that to happen.
Right.
And that's the problem that we face, right now. Social Security and Medicare, doesn't matter what they say, something's going to have to be done. 866-90-RED-I.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I'm telling you, of all the the topics you bring up about the platform and the pretty vague platform of the Republicans, is the fact that right now none of that matters. People are talking about it's inflation. Inflation, the border, and the cognitive problems of the president.
And
that's really it.
And do you change the tone of the coverage by going, hey, let's go a little milquetoast on the platform? Right now, the whole side with Biden is on fire. Let's not create a fire of our own.
Right.
Maybe that's the approach.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.